Comrades, you'll be on your way home soon, except I know that a lot of you just want to stay and keep speaking, right? Wow, what an incredible conference. What a moment. It's so clear, it's so undeniable that our party has been rejuvenated by the influx of large numbers of young militants and revolutionaries who are wonderful in so many ways, determined, smart, brave, and having an understanding that the road to the revolution is to stand with the most oppressed on this planet. There's no other road. A lot of comrades are worthy of credit for this, and that credit should be given. But it's an objective process too. What's happening to our party must be a symptom of something going on underneath. Something like the radicalization of large sectors of the workers and the oppressed. Something that is not even on people's radar screen, or maybe it is. When you hear, polls about how many people are for socialism and how many people hate capitalism. I think that's just the tip of the iceberg. I think this radicalization has no limits, and it is a powerful people's bomb exploding for the desire to put this system in the dustpans of history. It's important to raise the objective process that's rejuvenating our party so that what's happening is put into a proper and historical context. And so we feel some responsibility that perhaps at an earlier time we were not prepared to feel. What I'm taught as a revolutionary by Comrade Sam Marcy and other leaders of our party is that as the party gets bigger, a reflection of the working class growing politically and becoming more revolutionary, the party has to shoulder more responsibility, not less. Because making revolution, whatever that means to you, is a big thing, not a less thing. When I look out at this audience and I hear the speeches and I hear about how many people are looking at the live stream, and I don't know how many people are outside of the United States, I think of this, and this is what Marcyites were taught, the first time they heard Comrade Marcy speak, once or twice or three or four times. One way or another it came out, whether he was talking about Africa, whether he was talking about the Black Liberation Movement, whether he was talking about Vietnam or Cuba or anything. And that was that the oppressed of this planet, the workers and the oppressed, are waiting for the multinational working class at the center of imperialism to wake up and show signs that not only is it alive, but it is ready to kick some ass and change the objective situation on the planet, change what they used to call the relationship of forces. This is a big concept. We believe it's true. When you look at Zimbabwe, who imperialism has been starving, certainly whatever's happening there, that has had something to do with it, because they hate liberation. When you look at our comrades in Venezuela and how they're starving Venezuela, look at what they're doing to Puerto Rico. It's supposed to be part of the U.S. It's a colony. If anybody didn't realize that, they certainly realize that now. When you look at the oppressed in any part of the globe, the Middle East, look what they've done to the Middle East. They've devastated the Middle East. They bombed many countries literally back into the Stone Age. Look what they did to Libya. What a crime. We could move on. We could move on to Asia, to the Americas, and to Newark, and Detroit. Look what they did to Detroit. Look what they did to Brooklyn. If the workers and the oppressed of this country were strong and had a strong revolutionary party that reflected their strength, that channeled their strength, this would not be. This would not be. The oppressed everywhere would have a loyal ally. And what we do would have an immediate and positive impact on their struggle. That hasn't been the case. We've done what we can. Others have done what we can. Generally, it's been symbolic. What I'm trying to say is that now we're in a development where it must go beyond symbolism. It must change the equation. Our comrades in the DPRK, what we call People's Korea, they have a right to defend themselves with nuclear weapons. We must defend that. That said, I wish the case was that they knew that we would shut this country down and burn the Pentagon to the ground if there was even a whisper, that the generals were going to carry out some unimaginable attack on Asia. We can't do that yet, but we're changing. This is what changes things. The growth, the political development of the workers and the oppressed in the United States, what we all call the belly of the beast, this is what's happening. This is the objective process. Finally, years ago, decades ago, many decades ago, 60, 70 years ago, Sam talked about it in terms of we've been relying, let's face it, we've been relying on the national liberation movements, on the Soviet Union. Talk about the Soviet Union. Would things have worked out the way that they did? Might there still be a Soviet Union if the working class at the imperialist centers was strong and revolutionary and united? No one can answer that question, but it's a damn good question. Finally, what's happening to us is a reflection of something much bigger. I know that it's easier to digest and understand things if you dice it up. And that narrowness is necessary, you know, just like we look at things locally before we look at things regionally, nationally, and globally. But this is a time, comrades, to stop for a moment, even if it's only for a moment, and think globally and think historically. Because what our growth reflects is a world situation, and we have more responsibility. And as revolutionaries, it is our obligation to open our eyes, to understand that responsibility, and to shoulder it. There will be no revolution if we don't understand this, but I am confident that we will. A related, very much related process. The election of Trump is a contradictory development. All of us understand one side of it. It's a massive attack on the oppressed, on black and brown people, on women, on Muslims, on lesbian, gay, bi, trans, and queer people, and on the poor. It's also on the entire working class. But, you know, I'm talking about the initial picture. Actually, it's an effort to smash our class into 1,000 pieces so that we're less able to fight capitalism. And all of the things that comrades have talked about, what's going on with the tax breaks for the rich and the corporation, and how it's a transfer of wealth from whatever's left in, social programs at a national and local level, just defund all that, counter-revolution, and give it to the rich, and how there's probably a great idea and a great strategy for a struggle around that. That's very true. And there's so many other things that are happening, healthcare, whatever, But there's another side of the contradiction of Trump's election. It's a sign that capitalism is failing. It's a sign that its political system is slowly falling apart. Actually, not so slow. It's a good sign. It's part of a contradiction. And the message it should send to revolutionaries everywhere, especially here in the belly of the beast, it's like when the shark smells blood. This system is falling apart. They have a buffoon for president. It is, when I say buffoon, I don't want to suggest that he's not dangerous. But I'm talking about from the point of view of them. It's part of their split. It's part of their craziness. It's part of their, falling apart, that somehow they've got, this bumbling buffoon as a president that speaks for powerful U.S. imperialism. I'll tell you, there's a sector of the ruling class that can't look in the mirror. It's bizarre. It's unimaginable. They don't believe it. They talk about it on CNN and MSNBC, and I don't think anybody listens. Because the workers and the oppressed don't listen to them anymore. Actually, his election, to some extent, it's a sign of that. They're losing all credibility with all sections of the population, all sections of it. This is a contradictory development. We understand the terrible, dangerous, negative, fascist part of it, but we must also understand that it's blood in the water for capitalism. What we were taught as Marxists, Marxist-Leninists, was that when there is trouble in the ruling class, the big trouble such as that which exists today, what should the working class do if it's revolutionary, the workers and the oppressed? They should see if there's a way that they can exploit it in the interests of the class struggle. They shouldn't just sit on the sidelines and watch ping pong, and just be out of it. You let somebody else make the decisions over their life and what happens. That's not the solution. They certainly shouldn't depend on another capitalist party to save them, which is the problem that we're going to be dealing with. We're always dealing with it, but we're going to be dealing with it big time in 2018. They should find a way to intervene. All revolutions, to one extent or another, including the Russian Revolution, the French Revolution, all of them, to one extent or another, it was the revolutionary forces at some point exploiting a split or some kind of breakdown in the ruling class, whether it was a feudalist ruling class or whether it's a capitalist ruling class. Hello, that's what's happening right now. Excuse me. And it's happening on a global level. This is painful and dangerous, but underneath it, comrades and friends, it's good news. If, and only if, the workers and the oppressed of this country are trying to find a way to take advantage of it, to undermine imperialism and capitalism, and find a way to the road to revolution. So when we admonish each other to build the party, any way it's done is fine. Out of exuberance, that's good. We'll take that. But there are other ways. And what I'm trying to describe, perhaps inarticulately, is that as we grow, we must understand that we're not separate, but we're a reflection of something that's going on in our class. And to realize that is to understand the new responsibility that we have. You have to go out and get more comrades. You can. We've shown that it's possible. If we can win this many people, we can win 100 times this many people. Who can disprove that? Who can disprove that? You couldn't say that 10 years ago. I don't think you could say that a few years ago. But no one can disprove. If we can win this many great revolutionaries, why can't we win 100 times more? Now that may be up to what we do or don't do. How much that is, I don't know. That's argumentative. But let's put it this way. Let's act like it's up to us. Let us go out and recruit like we've got nothing better to do. Like there's nothing more, that's it. Whatever else we're doing tremendous things. This growth is affecting our internal process. You know, a couple of comrades spoke to that. It's tremendous. It's exciting. It's necessary. And we'll be in the struggle. I don't want to speak to the specifics. What happens in January, what happens on May Day, International Women's Day, you know, what happens if there's a war. Hopefully, well, we must address all that. We better be ready to address all that, or we should get out the way and let somebody who's able to address it. And I'm not sure there is anybody, so I guess we're stuck. But you comrades have to go back to your localities, and you have to recruit. And if this method is not effective, try another method. And if that method isn't effective, try another method, and try and build this party and be responsible for our party realizing its full potential. That will be we're already in a period of transformation, but I think that will be the real transformation. Then we'll be able, perhaps, not just to be in solidarity with our comrades in People's Korea, but to tell them, don't worry, we will shut the war makers down. We'll shut them down. Venezuela, don't worry. There's no imperialist army going in there. The Marines are not landing there. We're not going to let them. We're not going to let them. And all the other oppressed around the world, we can tell them, listen, don't worry, do what you got to do, whatever way you're going to do it. But we are going to paralyze U.S. imperialism so that they can't continue to terrorize you. We've got to go out and win more queers. We've got to go out and win more black people, more Latinx, more indigenous people, more women. What was Mon talking about? What's that category? We don't even use it that much. Lumpen, right on, whatever. Capitalism is, from one point of view, capitalism is making more of us more and more lumpen by the day. How difficult is it to find a homeless person? You cannot walk down the street. We've got to organize these people. We have got to organize the prisoners. When they go on strike, even though we can't be with them in the cell, they've got to know that the working class is with them. The immigrant workers who are rotting in some jail, waiting to be deported, getting no health care, separated from their families, living in fear, they've got to know that we may not be in the cell with them where we are in spirit, but we will tear down that cell. We will tear it down. Because ultimately, the Revolutionary Party, not only in this country, but everywhere, has to be a party of immigrants. When you weigh things pound for pound, the immigrants, workers, and it's a global phenomenon. We don't even have to start talking about all the people, the thousands and tens of thousands who have died in the Mediterranean. I saw some documentary on, one of the TV stations about them selling slaves in Libya. Look what they've done to Libya. What a crime. There's chattel slavery there. This is what's happening to the immigrants. Dark-skinned immigrants from Central Africa, from Nigeria. This is what imperialism has done to the world. Barbarism, I think some governments used to call it. We have got to go out and organize every section, and everybody's good. We got to get retirees. They've got a lot of time, and they've got a lot of skill, and they can do a lot. And if we don't go after them and recruit them, then somebody else will get them. And I don't think that whoever's getting them, even on the left, will be better than Workers' World. What do you think? We've got to get the disabled. We've got to go everywhere where people aren't even looking or not caring about sections of our class that are hidden, that have no voice, and say, come on in, come on in. And not only are we in solidarity with you, but you can help us. This, comrades, is the road to revolution, the best way that we know it. When will that revolution be? We can't tell, and there's probably a general feeling that it's no time in the near future, whatever that means. But I'll tell you, things move very fast in an economic and political crisis. You think the bourgeoisie thought they were going to get saddled with Trump 2 years ago? I don't think so. It hit them in the face like a brick. Other things can hit them in the face like a brick. So we don't have to promise ourselves or anybody else that we'll be erecting the revolutionary barricades and, whatever, We don't have to promise that. We may not be able to, come up with that. On the other hand, we should keep our powder dry because you never know. You never know. I'll end by reminding you of what Lenin did when he came back from exile in Germany, sometime in the middle of 1917. Was it April? He wrote the April Theses. Large sections of the Bolshevik Party, they weren't for continuing the revolution. They thought, we had a bourgeois revolution, and, we don't have a big proletariat, and we have the peasantry, and we're not ready for socialism, and we've got to have a period of capitalist development. And Lenin said, no. Let's make the proletarian revolution. Let's win the peasants to our side. Let's do it. The ruling class is weak. Where are they weaker? What are we waiting for? We don't want to make the same mistake here. Build a workers' world.